All right, well, it's the end of week 3 for me. I'm so excited. The rest of my classroom organizational stuff came in yesterday, and I had to put it in my video in the background. There's my new calculator rack. I'm super excited. So my organizational video should be coming up soon. My shop teacher is just finishing one last thing for me that came in my box yesterday. So that's really exciting. And I'm working on some funding this year for a few more things. Some new calculators for the new district that I came to kind of update some things in my classroom, and hoping to get some funding for some wireless devices this year, but if not this year, next year, just tracking down some funding. But in the meantime, we're making do with what we have, and really excited about what I have because it's working so far, and excited about that. So first thing I want to talk about in my video this week is I started into the first modules this week. So we did module 0, right, in week 1 and 2. And I'm so glad that I gave myself that kind of critical thinking element last year at the end of the year, going, I really need to do that. It was a great foundation. It was a great way to warm the kids up, to get them back into the math and to get them comfortable with the technology. And then I started those modules. And for my classes that I'm piloting the MVP Mathematic Vision Project curriculum, it was awesome. I love watching that, they call it that mathematical discourse, of watching them kind of struggle through that new type of math, but you're right there to help them. And so you ask them to do that first task, and it's different than what anybody's ever asked them to do. And actually it's actually not hard per se. It's just not computing and memorizing anymore. It's actually using models and drawing and figuring out kind of what's going on in a real life scenario. And it's not a 3-sentence word problem. It's life. And they're not used to that. And it's really different for them. And usually it's I like to call them my math nerds. My math nerds really struggle with it. And I'm a math nerd, and when I first saw that curriculum and it first got put in front of me, and I'm in a professional development scenario, my first hour or so in there, I kind of did the same thing. I got the glazed eyes. I kind of went, I don't even know where to start. Like, what are you asking me to do exactly? I'm just looking at this piece of paper going, and it happened yesterday, or this week, sorry, and I'm just feeling for these kids. And then usually it's those kids that get, I hate to put kids in grade classifications, but those kids that get, your C's, B's, even lower grades. Sometimes it's your kids that typically have struggled really badly in math, and they're making circles and coloring things in, and all of a sudden they're writing expressions. And it's hilarious. I hate to even say it's hilarious, but it kind of is funny watching this whole new dynamic. And my math nerds catch on real quick. I caught on quick. But all of a sudden, we're like, life. Math applies to life? Oh my gosh, really? Wow, it's not just memorization and computing. Math actually applies to life, to the world around me, and it's awesome. And there are only a couple tasks in this week, so there's still a little bit of struggle, and I warned them ahead of time. I said, there's a little bit of struggle that goes along with this, but don't worry. I use my phrase, I'm never going to chuck you under the bus. I'm always going to be there. I've got your back. It's going to be okay. But I definitely had a couple glazed eyes this week. I definitely had a couple kids that were like, I don't know if I like the task part of this. We just do those, each group kind of does those every other day. So it's been interesting but awesome. And they're already kind of catching the drift of, hey, I'm not looking for a right answer. There isn't like this perfect plug and play answer. We're exploring here. We're checking out what's going on in the situation. And we're not looking for the exact perfect thing. I'm just asking you to see what's happening and what's going on. And so they're starting to kind of get the hang of that. I feel like in week 3, we're gaining a little traction. The stations are starting to work a little better. Oh my gosh, week 2 and the beginning of week 3, I was kind of going, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? Doing stations, the same thing I think I did last year. Like you have those moments of what was I thinking, going fully blended crazy. But you know, you have the vision in your head and you know it's gonna work and you know what your classroom is supposed to look like and you're hanging in there. But it's starting to gain a little traction, and from doing it last year and launching last year, I know, okay, I'm gaining a little traction, so this is just going to keep getting better. It's going to just keep gaining traction now. I'm feeling the momentum starting to build this week, and so that's a good feeling. The kids are catching on, I'm catching on, and so that's a really nice feeling. Another thing that I did this week is my iPad hasn't been syncing as well with Reflector for projecting my notes, and I'm noticing that I'm having a few more absences. Just a lot of people have been getting sick, and we had fires in this area, so I still have families that are displaced and struggling, and I have a random fly in here this morning. And so I've been doing a lot more notes on my whiteboards. And so what I did kind of as a solution to that, because of my absences, is I started taking pictures with my iPad of my notes on the whiteboard, and I made a Facebook page, and I made albums on my Facebook page. I made a class Facebook page. I made albums on my Facebook page for each class, and their album has all of their notes off the whiteboard, so if they're ever absent or anything like that, they can get to it. And then I was telling Teresa Carter, my blended rep, about my really cool idea, right? And she said, well, Kelsey, let's integrate that right into your LMS too. And I'm like, well, duh, why didn't I think of that? And so she is working on that with me, and we're putting it right into their Brain Honey. So under their module 1 or chapter 1, they're going to have a notes section, so they can just click on it, whether they log in at home or here, and make sure, because one thing I really push, especially with some of the absences that we're dealing with, is that they're really making sure those notes are going in their notebook. And when they ask me a question, I'm not the kind of teacher that likes to just give them an answer. You know, a lot of you aren't either. And so when they give me a question, I said, well, let's take a look at your notes on that. Or have you talked to your partner yet? And I'm asking them questions a lot of times. What do your notes say? Oh, okay, what is that right there? And so I'm really pushing them back to resources a lot of times. And so making those resources even more available, and that way when a kid's absent, last year I found myself taking, you know, I didn't have as many absences, but I was taking pictures of notes, and then I was messaging it to them from my iPad. And I thought this year, you know, rather than messaging it to them, because that's a lot more time for me, if I just already made it live and accessible to them, they could just go get it. And I could still message it, email it, but that was one of the solutions that I had too. And I was really kind of excited about that. And now we're building it into the LMS. So the Facebook page is going to be great. This district is kind of cool. They have a Facebook page just for the school, and parents interact on that all the time. And so Facebook is something they push really hard, and their school interacts on a lot. And so I'm linking the Facebook page in really hard. And then as the students become really comfortable with the LMS, we'll see if the Facebook page goes away because they're interacting so much on the LMS, or if it stays. I don't know. We'll just see where the technology takes us. So we'll see how that goes. The other thing that's been really fun here, and this isn't really Brain Honey or LMS oriented, but I'm running out of whiteboard space because everything is just, these kids are so interactive. It's kind of insane. And we're doing stations. So not all of my kids are on a device every single day. And so a lot more things this year are happening on paper or on a hard surface. And so one thing that I'm finding in my pre-calc class, because they don't actually have a whiteboard, all my other classes have in my room, there's a whiteboard designated just for them. And so my pre-calc class has started, I like using liquid chalk, and so they've just started expanding. I've just started writing on windows in my classroom. Well, that in the last 2 days has turned into windows in the school, which we love our janitorial staff and they're amazing, so we wash it off ourselves. But in the last 2 days, this amazing class has just started graphing and doing problems. I mean, it's like if you've ever watched A Beautiful Mind, and these kids are graphing and doing high-end math problems and doing exploratory tasks. I mean, yesterday I had one of them standing, it was totally safe, please, but he's standing, you know, on top of a bench, you know, and kind of up in a ledge, and he's graphing a quadratic function as he's exploring a task up in a high-end window, while there's other kids graphing in other windows, and they're having this conversation about linear growth versus exponential growth. And it was over, you know, this conversation about, if my speed doubled, would my stopping distance double? And they said, you know, most people would absolutely say yes, but they said no, because the equation that represents this is quadratic. So actually my change is not linear, it's exponential. And the conversation these two groups have had in the last 2 days, simply because they grabbed some liquid chalk and started writing on windows rather than on paper, and then they could all see it, and actually our whole school started seeing it, and they started explaining it to other students who were in lower math classes, and they started understanding it, and staffs walking by. Anyway, it was awesome. It was totally amazing, and the school's interacting with them, and I don't know, I just think it's awesome. Everybody is getting really excited, and I like it when people get excited about math, because it's not something you see all the time. I think math's exciting, and it's exciting to me. So when other people can get excited about the subject that's exciting to me, especially because I don't think a lot of people get excited about math, that makes me really happy. So it's been a really cool week, and it's had some really great solutions. And I think for me, coming in, finishing out week 3, feeling like traction's beginning to happen, that makes me happy. I love week 3 and 4. It always gives me hope after last year. So I'm excited that stations are happening and they're beginning to really work. My students are walking in every day, and they're starting to sit where they're supposed to sit, and the groupings are going where they're supposed to be going, and everybody's starting to kind of get in the flow, and the grades are happening, and they're being able to look at the grades and understanding what those all mean, and understanding what the LMS is doing. So I'm excited. I know videos are getting longer in first quarter, but it's exciting, it's great, and I'm excited to tell you what happens next week in week 4.